I don't typically say we get hitched, but that just felt right there. And since I'm not editing anything, then I'll dare say it's perfect. So, we're married. A couple months later, well, let me back up 2 years. I've always wanted to help people, so I sought out working in law enforcement. And in 2006, I was basically shamed by Chief Moody, and he owned it in 2008. Basically apologized for being that harsh on me. That was just another example of people that did not believe in me. Heather did. And as that life carried on, we figured out some things that when you're building on your weaknesses and your strengths, and you're doing that in multiple ways, whether physically with exercise, physical exercise, which also helps cognition, of course, and keeping this thing humming for many more years. And we're building things, saving money, doing things the smart way, have this off the charts, I'm now learning, family that is so unlike so many others. And that's the sad part. And we had a normal thing. There was nothing abnormal about it. We weren't living our life to insult people. We weren't living our life to be better than anybody. We never believed we were better than anybody. We never were better than anybody. Nobody's better than anybody. But we do need to all understand that our pasts, our weaknesses, our inability to do this or that, anything like that, that's not who we are. That's just a part of us. The thing to do with those weaknesses is to either strengthen them or stop worrying about them. Because worrying is itself one of the greatest diseases that the human will ever deal with. It does nothing. It's pointless. It creates scenarios. That's an over-imagination for adults. Anyway. Somewhere around early 2012, Heather started getting some notable bruises. Just out of nowhere. Fast forward a little bit. Amanda, you were on this vacation with us as the babysitter for the 14-year-old who is basically 50 right now in terms of cognitive. And she's not going to go through the things that I had to go through, that Heather had to go through, and that so many of you will have to go through because I can't reach the world just yet. And I never will, even if Spotify is like, yeah, we want this guy on board. But that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. To reach those ready and willing to receive the message as transmitted. So those bruises, getting back to that, we're on vacation in Miami. It was largely a wrestling-themed vacation. Went to WrestleMania 28. Had a blast. That was such a wonderful experience. I always talk about this. The people around us, one man from Los Angeles right next to me, somehow got a ticket that was completely across the stadium from his buddies. So we told him, well, you're our buddy now, because there's such a cool vibe at WrestleMania that there's people from all over the world. And pretty much on very similar pages. So we had that guy, we had a couple from Chicago beside us on my wife's side, we had the sweetest, most docile couple from England in front of us. I love it. They were they were asking us where we were from. We were asking them where they were from. We could kind of tell because of their accent, and the husband, I believe it was like, we're from Jersey. Not your Jersey, our Jersey. Like, oh, we can tell already by your demeanor that you're not from our Jersey. Those guys 3 rows up that are drunk, that our little section chanted, you've got man boobs too. And ultimately by the end of the night, even they were getting along with us because our group, our little area, it was too cool. Behind us we had this group of girls from Alabama, and all of us were, it was wonderful. Our group, we were taking pictures together, and everybody's taking pictures with each other. This was before all this stuff blew up. I would love to find any of you, if you were that guy and you hear this, if you were the guy who sat next to me at WrestleMania when my wife took the phone and told us to be kids again when The Undertaker came out, because I had waited my whole life to see that man live, and finally did at WrestleMania. And man, I don't know how he walked through that pyro, because we were probably a football field or more away from that stage. And just those little pyro come up, go down, was enough to cause immediate perspiration that far away. So I don't know how he did it in a leather coat. But anyway, the group around us, so cool. And the vibe, so cool. And even in that experience, it gives you a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because everybody is basically the same. Everybody agreed on going to WrestleMania is cool. And you had pretty much anything you could think of in terms of demographics represented there. And so much camaraderie, chill vibe, peaceful, and a small group of people that gotta ruin it for the rest of us. But back to the bruises. I get a little off track when I'm reminiscing about something wonderful. And I get a little off track if I'm reminiscing about anything, because that's just the nature of this. So I'm joking with her in Miami about, like, you call your doctor before we even go home, get an appointment set up for like the day of or the next day when we go home. Because being in law enforcement at that point, which the academy was pretty difficult for me. I'm a smaller framed guy. I've never fully believed in myself in terms of I'm Billy Badass or anything like that. I'm not anything like that at all. My strength is my mind and my perseverance. The thing I need to listen to myself on is be patient, not fix your issues and all that stuff. Fix my issue on patience. But that's why this episode exists. So the appointment's made. We fly back. A little bit of a falling out with Amanda. So it's awesome that we all reconnected. And everything was okay. And we get home on Tuesday. Her appointment was on Wednesday. Thursday morning, eating cheap McDonald's breakfast, writing out the Meyer list with my coupons and sales, because we did everything as intelligently and optimally as we possibly could. So I'm getting that list together and the phone rings. Some of you just gotta chill. I understand. Basically, they said everything but the word cancer, because Springfield, Ohio, I don't know what you're doing. The liability stuff with our systems is, I don't know. People first. But we go into the hospital. My dad, who's in the picture on my personal page, I shared it on the podcast page. I've gone through a lot of things on the podcast page because I've had to be silent about a lot of things, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus or dog anybody, because that's not what I am. What I'm talking about is the understanding. So, by the end of the day, they still have not said the word cancer. But they had the transport to Ohio State University, which I have nothing but wonderful things to say about them. I'm seeing Dr. Chan right now for my non-24 sleep disorder. Dr. Vasu is a phenomenal oncologist, and we developed a wonderful relationship with her and the nurses and staff at OSU. And turned out to be AML, acute myeloid leukemia. Well, being positive people is, well, we'll figure this out too. This is just another hurdle on the journey of life, like going from one grade to the next, going from one job to another, catching a cold. And yeah, that's how we looked at it, because we were alive, and I still am. And we go through all the process, stayed at OSU for a month. That was really difficult because neither of us had had something like that to that point. But we were in pretty regular contact, of course, and visiting a lot and all that. And, oh, by the way, current family and Ohio State Highway Patrol Academy, that one night on Liberty, we weren't supposed to leave Franklin County, but I came home and I ate a bowl of cereal and shot the shit with my wife for about 15 minutes because I talked to her on the phone until I walked up and knocked on the door and she said, "Hang on, somebody's at the door." In that moment, and now that everything's where it's at now, I'll do it every single time, but fortunately all that stuff's behind me. Anyway, relapse. May of 2013. So then it's, okay, we gotta do a bone marrow transplant, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta do the other. They do that, she's in there for quite a while. Perfect match. That's what they called it, 10 out of 10. Christina Phillips, you are still in this family. I never cheated on Heather. Amy and I made mistakes, and I was vulnerable and didn't realize it. Because of my stoicism, I've always blazed right through anything and everything, and Heather was sick and strong for so long that this family mourned her death while she was still alive, so we could live our days, however few or many there were. And we prefer many. That's how I look at life. To the best of our abilities. That reminds me of getting back to somebody beat the inquisitive nature out of us, so to speak. Not necessarily physically beat, but just teach it out of you. Because I firmly believe whatever we entertain as young people, unless there is a massive, massive upheaval, Amy, this is your massive upheaval. The healing does not happen. The cycle continues. So, late 2013, Heather's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Hold on, I set an alarm. It's going to go off here in a little bit because I was going to get up, take my daughter to the doctor or urgent care since she needs just some symptom relief medication and